Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to make some mozzarella string cheese, and what you're going to need for that is I have 2 gallons of milk, and I get my milk fresh from a local farmer, so it's raw milk, but you can use store-bought homogenized milk. Just use whole milk, and what you'll need to do with that is you will need to add some calcium chloride to that to replace the chloride that was taken out during the processing steps. And so you would add this right away when you put it in your pan, and then that would be all you would need to do, and then you can proceed regularly with your cheese making. And then you're going to need citric acid. You can get this in the grocery store, probably in the canning section is where you're most likely to find it. But this is just Mrs. Wages. You just get it right out of the grocery store. And then you're going to need rennet. And I use animal rennet from the New England Cheese Company. I find that this is the best rennet to use. And again, you know, look at your directions. This is a ½ teaspoon sets 2 gallons of milk. So you don't need a lot of it. And then we have some measuring tools, a slotted spoon. I like to use these kind of spoons for my cheese making. And then you will need a bowl, and you'll need a little bit of salt because you'll take some of the whey out and put it in a bowl and add some salt to put your cheese in once it's done. But that is what we need to make mozzarella. Now I have my milk in the pot, and what you want to use is a heavy bottom pot. It feels weighted on the bottom. So one, you don't scorch your milk, and it helps retain the heat in your milk in the pan. Thin bottom, real thin bottom, tinny sounding pans, those are for boiling water. So when you get a cheese pot, make sure it's got a heavy bottom. Our cheese is at 47 degrees. I've had it sitting out for a little bit. I just took it out of the refrigerator a little bit ago. And before we put our culture in, which is our citric acid, you want your temperature to be between 55 and 65 degrees. Okay, our milk is at 60 degrees. So I'm going to add the citric acid. You add 1 teaspoon per gallon of milk. And I'm going to put that in a ½ cup of cool water, and then stir it until it doesn't feel grainy on the bottom anymore. And then we're going to add that to our milk. This is our culture. And then you want to stir this for a good minute. You want to do it like an up and down motion as you're stirring it. You want this incorporated in really, really well. I forgot to mention in the beginning that you're going to need a thermometer. I use a digital thermometer with a long probe on it that I put on the side of my pans. I just bumped it and it fell off, but I'll get it back on in a second. And we have the burner off. I found that the slower you let this culture, the longer you let this culture, the better flavor your cheese has. So you just want to stir this in really, really well. And when you put your thermometer in, you don't want your thermometer sitting on the bottom of the pot. You want it about halfway up so you get a better reading. But I'm just going to let it slowly sit here. We want to raise the temperature to 88, but you want to do that, as slow as you can. I'll leave this just sit here like this until I see my temperature starts to drop a little bit in the pot on my thermometer. Then I'll turn my burner on low. And then we'll bring the temperature up to 88 degrees. Okay, now that my milk has cultured for about 20 minutes, it's still holding the temperature. I'm going to turn the heat on low and start heating it up to 88 degrees. Now that it's up to 88 degrees, I'm going to put my rennet in, and this rennet is 1/4 teaspoon for 2 gallons of milk. Now dissolve it in about 1/4 cup of cool water. I'll put that in the milk. And I turn the heat off. And you want to give this a good stir. You want to stir this for about a minute. And what the rennet does is it coagulates the milk to form the curd. Now we're going to leave this sit for about 15 minutes with the heat off, and then we'll come back and check it. I just wanted to show you how you test to see if you're ready to cut your curds. Put your finger in and pull it along. You can see how it's a little bit jaggy yet and a little jelly-like. That's not ready to cut. So we're going to let it sit about 5 to 10 more minutes, and then we'll come back and look at it again. Okay, we're going to check it again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my knife. You can put your knife in, and then you can pick up on it and see how that break is traveling down. That's a clean break. You can also use your finger and pick it up, but I find it's better to use my knife. See? There you go. So now what you want to do is I use my bread knife, or you can use any long knife, and you want to cut it into a grid about 1 inch apart. Doesn't have to be exact. You cut one way, and then you cut it across the other way. There's a little big. This will get your curds about a uniform size. Then I take my slotted spoon and I go in from the edge down to the bottom, and then I come up just a little bit and I cut across as I'm coming up, if that makes sense. So now what we're going to do, by cutting the curd, it causes the curd to release its whey. That's this liquid stuff you're starting to see. That's the whey is coming out of the curd. What we're going to do is we're going to let this rest for 10 minutes. and let it release some of its whey. So I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll start again. Now it's been 10 minutes. You can take the thermometer out. You don't need that anymore. You gotta shut off. And you can see how the curds have sunk to the bottom and the whey has come to the top. As the curds lose their whey, they'll sink like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn our burner back on. We're going to turn it on low. And we're going to start stirring our curds. You can do this with a spoon, or you can do it with your hand. In the beginning, when the curds are real soft and tender, you can see how you want to be real delicate with them. And I find that I'm too rough with the spoon. So you just want to go through and stir down to the bottom. And then break up any bigger ones like this. And you want to try to get your curds all about the same size so that they all release their whey about the same time. And you're going to slowly be heating up. And as the curds heat up, they release more whey. It becomes more acidic. The pH starts lowering, and your curds will start getting a little firmer. This is my favorite part of cheese making. I find it very satisfying to do this. But you can see how tender the curds are. They're real soft. And you just keep stirring them, breaking up any of the bigger ones. You can see as our whey is heating up and our pH is dropping or becoming more acidic, the curds are starting to toughen up a little bit. They're not quite as tender. That's how you know that your culture is working. You just want to keep stirring them so they don't mat on the bottom. You don't want them to stick to the bottom and all mat together. If you try to get your curds about the same size, they'll release their whey about the same time. And then your cheese will be ready to stretch at the same time. See, here's one. So here you can see how much more firm it is? You can feel the curds starting to change. The texture of them start changing. Like these ones here that are look like curdly, they're releasing their whey. And the ones that still look pillowy like this, they still have their whey in them. See, this is what happens if you leave them sit on the bottom. You want to break that up. That's called matting together. See this here? That's what you don't want them to do. We have our burner on low and it's getting warmer and warmer. Once it gets too hot for my hands, I'll just use the spoon. I'm just looking for the little bit bigger ones right now. As the pH level comes down and the curds heat up, the protein uncoils and becomes long strands. And that's what is going to allow us to stretch the mozzarella. Now that they all look about the same, I'm going to take some of the whey out and put it in a bowl with some salt. And this is what we're going to have our cheese in, a brine for our cheese sticks. And then I've got less whey in here to deal with. Okay, these are about ready to start forming our balls. So you just gather up your curds and you squeeze them into a ball. I usually do like, I don't know, 4 balls and set that down in the whey. Once you can start squeezing them and see they stay together like this, that's when they're ready to put into mozzarella balls. I try to get them about the same size on the balls, because then they're ready to stretch about the same time. You just keep scooping them up. twist them in the bottom. Just looking for any more curds floating around in here. You can use your spoon. I think that's pretty good. And then I put them in the bottom, and then I go around each one and start like turning it into itself. You can see how this is real rough. And we're just going to keep stretching these until they smooth out. Put that one back, take the next one. You just let the other ones rest on the bottom while you're working them. You just keep pushing them like into itself. Want to keep your burner on low. You don't want to boil your whey. If you think it's going to start boiling, you can always shut it off for a minute. And you just keep stretching. You see they're stretching out a lot smoother now. You see? They're still not ready, but it's getting better. The protein chains are changing. My whey is a little hot. I think I'll use my spoon. You see they're getting more easier to form into the ball, and they're really smoothing out nice now. It'll get even smoother than that yet. See, this one isn't ready yet. Some will get ready faster than others. See here? So that's what we're looking for. So real easy it stretches. we're getting there. And see how smooth that is? That's what we're looking for. This one's just about ready. If you see where they look lumpy, that needs to be stretched. It's really hot. There we go. There we are. Okay, what we're doing is we're stretching them into a rope about the size that you want. I'm just going to shut my burner off a minute. About the size that you want for your thickness you want for your string cheese. And then I lay it out. I take my scissors and I cut about the size pieces that I want. About like that. And then I put them into my brine. See how easy it's stretching now? Nice and smooth, pretty smooth. Fairly smooth. You're gonna get a little roughness here and there, but I don't worry about that. See? So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for nice and smooth. And I lay them out. Kind of squeeze the ends so they're not such a big ball on the end. See how easy that's stretching? I got a little thin. You see how Just squeeze them so that you get them kind of uniform. And this is just a little piece that was in there. See how it stretches? This is what you're looking for with your mozzarella. And then we just take our scissors and we go down. And put them in the brine. Once they go in the brine, they start firming up. See, even as they're cooling off, they're getting firmer. You don't want to stretch them once you've got them laid out like this, because they'll just break, they'll just tear in half. But these will peel just like string cheese. If you wanted to make a mozzarella ball, you just keep forming it up in the ball how we did earlier. And then just tuck the bottoms in, and the top will be real nice and smooth and shiny. It'll get real elastic. And you just form it up into a ball and put the whole ball into your salt water. Or I mean your whey water. I guess it is salt water, it's got salt in it. But it's whey. Now we'll just leave it sit in the whey for about 6 hours with the salt and let it brine. And then I take them out and we'll dry them off and they'll be good to go. I hope you enjoyed today's cheese making video. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching and have yourself a great day. We'll see you next time.